Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Now today I'm going to be looking at a band that I am familiar with. It's a band called Chthonic. I do own several of their albums. They're a really interesting band to me, but for those of you who don't know the band or might want to know more, I of course did the usual bit of research, and there is a bit of information to go through here. Oh, excuse me. Now the name of the band Chthonic comes from the Greek word chthonios, which means in or under the earth, and is used to refer to like spirits, gods and demons of the underworld, essentially, that live within the earth itself. It's a word found quite often in the works of H.P. Lovecraft. But anyway, Chthonic is a band from Taiwan. They are a sort of melodic blackened death metal band formed in 1995 in Taipei. Now, the group incorporates influences from traditional Taiwanese music, including the adaptations of folk songs and traditional instruments, most notably the erhu, which is sort of an upright fiddle, I think, or similar to those that are used by the Who, you know, those horse-headed fiddles. It's very similar to that. Their stated goal is to use their music to bring ancient history and mythology into the modern era and to build awareness of the myths of Taiwan and the tragic events of that country's history. For example, those experienced by the Siddiq people. They actually did an album called Siddiq Bale, which I believe covered that topic. Now, since 2011, the trademark erhu has been complemented with other stringed instruments, including the koto and the shamisen, as well as Tibetan bells, the shakuhachi, and I'm not going to try and pronounce that last one because it doesn't make sense from my mouth. But they're instruments traditionally used by the Aboriginal people of Taiwan. The band members themselves are also acclaimed artists and political activists who advocate the independence of Taiwan and the self-determination for the Tibetan people. The singer himself served as chairman of the Taiwanese chapter of Amnesty International for 4 years between 2010 and 2014, and is now the legislator since 2016. To date, though, the band has released 8 studio albums, their most recent being Battlefields of Azura, which was released at the end of 2018. Now, the track we're going to look at is a track called Takao, which is taken off the album Takasago Army, which is the 6th album released by the band. And the album itself covers the story of the Takasago volunteers in the Imperial Japanese Army, recruited from Taiwanese Aboriginal tribes during World War II. Takasago itself, I believe, is an ancient Japanese word for Taiwan. So essentially, Takasago Army is the Taiwanese army serving Japan. And the album apparently is the 3rd part in a trilogy of albums called The Soul's Reposed. I'm not entirely sure which albums that covers, but I'll find out at some point. But anyway, I have been waffling on for a good nearly 4 minutes, so we'll just get to the track and we'll see what we find out from the track itself. So, Takao by Chthonic. you know, I've always found this band really fascinating. When I first ever heard them, I can't remember which track it was. You know, they always fascinated me because of the use of those instruments. You know, like right at the beginning, they had that big stringed sort of instrument, the sort of tabletop stringed instrument. I'm not sure which one that is, but you know, it's got a beautiful sound to it, and it really adds another dimension to the music, in my opinion. You know, because you hear like the heavy guitars, the relentless drums, and you know, these harsh vocals, and then they've got those instruments which have got such a beautiful sound to them. You would think, you know, on paper it wouldn't make sense, it would sound out of place, but it really works together. And when they bring in the erhu as well, you know, that's got such a unique, and again, it is a beautiful sound. And it's, you know, if you were to read it on paper, you would look at it and go, what? But it works really, really well. Now, the style that they're using in this album is different to their earlier stuff. Their earlier stuff, Mirror of Retribution, for example, is my favourite album by them. Has got a very sort of Dusk and Her Embrace era Cradle of Filth sound to it. But in this song, you can still hear kind of the inspiration of that style in his vocals, because he uses about 3 different styles of vocals in this song. You know, he's got the sort of deeper, sort of growled vocals, but he's got a slightly higher pitched sort of harsh growl, and then he's got a really sort of high pitched, almost scream like vocal style, which is the most reminiscent of Cradle of Filth style. You know, and they are a fascinating band. I just love the way the music sounds. Now, as I said, the track itself is talking about the Takasago army, and you can see that clearly by the video itself. You know, because it's illustrating like the soldiers and such like, and the lyrics themselves even suggest as much, in not so much a direct term, but it's more of a suggestion. As it goes, vultures fly, circling the dark skies, plucking carrion from the ground. Blood-red sun, territory in size, marching forward without sound. Carved into flesh, written in blood, symbols burn so deeply in the mind. Gathering clouds, threatening skies, the sun's rays left me behind. Ghosts of the past, bound and tied. Honours, scars fade, glory dies. Excuse me. So, you know, there's a definite suggestion here of the bodies of soldiers laying on a battlefield and being picked up by vultures and stuff. You know, the first 2 lines, vultures fly, circling the dark skies, plucking carrion from the ground. You know, it's literally suggesting, you know, they're plucking at the corpses of felled soldiers on the battlefield. And then there's the following line, blood-red sun, territory in size. So, you know, the sun is rising on the battlefield, illuminating all of the blood that's like in the air, spread across the ground of the battlefield. And territory in size is like the split, you know, the divide of the 2 territories that were fighting. You know, the 2 different sides, and possibly, you know, that sort of thing. And carries on, you know, that carved into flesh, written in blood, symbols burn so deeply in the mind. You know, when you go into these battles, you see some horrible, horrible things, and they're not things you're going to readily forget. They're going to be permanently seared into your memory. So, you know, it's a very vague description, but it still evokes quite a bit of imagery in the mind. And, you know, it's a good song. You know, they've got really sort of fast, hard-hitting style. And like I said, I really, really enjoy it. I really like this band. We'll carry on. See what else happens.
Circling the dark sky, plucking carry on from the ground. There is on territory inside, marching forward with no sound. These voices go, mouth of the past, bound and tied, rise over thee. The life felt the valley died. Coming to flesh, written in blood, symbol burns so deeply in the mind. Gathering cloud, threatening skies, the sun's rays lay
And there we go. Takao by Chthonic. Now, when we came back into the song, it repeated the first verse again there. Vultures fly circling the dark skies, plucking carrion from the ground. Blood red sun, territory inside, marching forward without sound. Then it carried on. Deep within you, souls of the past bound and tied. Bright sun burning, the lines melt as glory dies. Carved into flesh, written in blood, symbols burn so deeply in the mind. Gathering clouds, threatening skies, the sun's rays left me behind. So, you know, she's carrying on the imagery of those soldiers on the battlefield. And, you know, there was plenty of imagery within the video as well, suggested it was showing like the aeroplanes and the children playing soldiers with like toy guns and stuff like that, as well as showing like the soldiers. Then they did this sort of what almost sounded like a chant, which was accompanied by the erhu, that upright sort of fiddle, similar to the horsehead fiddle from the Mongolian tracks. If I remember correctly, I think it's only got one, maybe two strings. I can't remember exactly. But the remaining vocals of the track were all sung in Taiwanese, and unfortunately, the lyrics I've got haven't translated them, so I don't know what they're saying. I wish I could find out. Don't know if there's a way I might be able to do that. So, right, after having a quick look, see if I can translate it, I found a rough translation, but I don't know how accurate it is. It says, Dagang ups and down, dignified men want to go out. So I'm assuming that's talking about soldiers wanting to go forward and fight, maybe. The momentum is inciting. And open to you my future. So is that like the soldiers want to go forward, fight the battle, and possibly free the people? You know, open to you my future. Is that like talking about freeing people, giving them the freedom that they want? Then it carried on. Teardrops look at the shadow of the boat. I'm guessing that's not very well translated. Please wait for me to spin, continue to dream of not being rounded. Now, when it says, please wait for me to spin, is that wait for me to turn around, maybe? This translation obviously hasn't worked out very well. So, unfortunately, the last part of the song, which is all sung in Taiwanese, I cannot give you a decent translation of it. But, you know, the general gist is obviously talking about the soldiers fighting for Japan during World War II. You know, and I've said many times, I like songs that have meanings, and you know that they like to talk about, you know, the traditions and the bad things that have happened in Taiwan, and this is obviously one of them, where the Taiwanese Aboriginal people were enlisted into the Japanese army to fight for them. And like the video itself evokes the imagery as well. It's unfortunate that the translation didn't work out, because I would have liked to have known what that said. But I do love the band. I love the sound of their music. It's not the best track of theirs that I've heard, I will admit. There's several off the, like I say, the earlier album, like The Mirror of Retribution, which are just fantastic, like 49 Theurgy Chains. Fantastic piece of music. But there's also a noticeable difference with the band here, because in the earlier albums they had sort of a gimmick where they all sort of wore masks or face paint, which doesn't appear in this, except for the drummer. He's still got that sort of samurai mask with the mouth on it. But you know, they're a really exceptional band. You couldn't really hear the who very much in that, but you know, they had the other traditional instruments in there, which I think really does add a great depth to the music, and I just think they're a fantastic band. They're so different and interesting. And, you know, I like music like this. I mean, over the last couple of days, I've covered a Mongolian band, and the other band, I can't remember where they're from. The band that I did yesterday, I can't remember where they're from, but they were fantastic, you know. And I like bands like this because they're using non-traditional instruments that you wouldn't think would be in this sort of music. You know, to look at it on paper, you'd sort of look at it and go, what? You know, heavy guitars, relentless drums, harsh vocals, and these stringed instruments which have the most beautiful sound. And, you know, it's not a harsh sound, it's actually quite a soft sound. And it's a beautiful sound. And you wouldn't think the two would go together, but they really work. And it's brilliant. It's one of the things I like about these tracks that I've been looking at, is the fact that they're using non-traditional instruments and making it work really, really well. Like the band I was looking at yesterday, they had like the violins or whatever it was in the music playing like the traditional folk music along with the heavy guitars and drums, and it worked. Somehow it worked, but it, you know, to look at it on paper, it wouldn't make sense. You know, and you know, I've got a deep love for foreign music anyway. I always have done. But you know, I like finding new music like this. I find it fascinating. And there's something about this music, it really gets the blood flowing, you know, it gets me excited, you know, it gets me raring to go. It's fast, it's exciting, and it's brilliant, and I love it. I will have to do a video for another Chthonic track, I think, possibly something from their earlier albums, like maybe something off Mirror of Retribution. You know, just to give an all-around sort of view of who the band are and were. And I'm going to have to find that new album, because I didn't know that had come out. Because, in fact, I've missed 2 albums, because Takao Army is the last album of theirs that I've actually got. So I've missed 2, so I'm going to have to look into those. But anyway, I will leave that one as it is. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram. The links for those are down there in the description. But do know, if you suggest a track, it will take me a while to get around to it, as I get suggested so many tracks every single day. My list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get given, so it will get done. It will just take me a while to get around to it, and you know, assuming YouTube doesn't block the video because of copyrights and stuff like that. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. They are a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, especially those aimed at people of the alternative subculture, listening to metal music or wearing alternative clothing, for example. It's a charity that's very close to my heart, and it's something that I really believe needs more attention. You know, you hear about hate crimes every single day in the news, on like social media and stuff like that. Every single day we hear something about racism or religious hatred or homophobia or transphobia, you know, all this sort of stuff happens every single day. But the things that you don't hear about very often are the people that are getting physically and verbally attacked on a regular basis because of the music that they listen to or the clothes that they wear. I mean, obviously there is a big thing about the Muslims and their traditional garb. I can't remember what they're called. You know, the women with these full body clothings on that cover their face and stuff like that. I can't remember what they're called. There was a big deal about that. And, you know, again, it's a hate crime against them because people are, you know, threatening them, assaulting them, etc. And, I mean, this happens to people who aren't even wearing, like, cultural clothing. This is happening to people who are just wearing everyday clothes that represent who they are. You know, these people are walking down the street in maybe just a black t-shirt and jeans, and they're getting attacked because they're a goth. You know, and it's stupid, it's ridiculous. You know, people are getting attacked because of their taste in music. You know, you don't walk down the street and beat someone up because they like the Transformers movies and you like Harry Potter. You know, you don't walk down the street and beat someone up because they like the Twilight books and you like Lord of the Rings. You know, so why would you beat someone up because they like heavy metal and you like chart music? You know, it doesn't make sense. It's pointless and stupid, and it doesn't accomplish anything. You know, it's just a ridiculous concept, and I cannot get my head around it. You know, I cannot fathom the justification that these people use to make it okay in their mind that it's fine to attack these people just because they don't like the same music. You know, the music that someone listens to doesn't impact your life in any way. I mean, if they're forcing you to listen to the music, if they're blaring it really loud in your face, then I can understand. But the thing is, you don't find that very often. I mean, I can't count the amount of times I've been on, like, a train, for example, and someone several rows down has taken out their phone or their iPod or whatever it is, and they've started blasting, like, hip-hop music or, like, dance, trance, whatever music. The amount of times I've heard that on trains, you know, and to be fair, I do like some of it. But when some ignorant prick is sitting behind me blasting that stuff, you know, and the rest of the train have to hear it, you know, it's ridiculous. But you very rarely, if ever, see someone of the alternative culture doing the same thing. I mean, sure, a little while ago when I was living in a different city, you know, me and a friend of mine would go and sit by a river with a phone and a Bluetooth speaker, play some music, drink a few beers, you know, and, you know, just chill out and relax. But it wasn't so obnoxiously loud that everybody around could hear it. It was just the sort of volume where we could hear it, and it was in an open space, so the sound got dissipated a bit by the environment. But, you know, if I was sitting there in an enclosed space blaring music in someone's face, I could understand why they'd be upset by it. But as a general day-to-day thing, it doesn't affect anybody, you know. What music I listen to doesn't affect my next-door neighbour. They can't hear it. It doesn't affect some guy down the street. He can't hear it. The only time he can hear it is if I'm playing it out loud in the middle of the street. You know, so why would you attack someone for the music they listen to when you can't hear it, when it doesn't affect your life in any way? You know, it makes no sense. And, you know, if someone's wearing alternative clothing and you don't like it, it still doesn't give any excuse to attack them. You know, they're in one direction. You have got an infinite possibility of directions to look in. Shift your line of sight maybe a centimetre to the left or the right, and you're not looking at them anymore. It's simple as that. If you don't like it, don't look at them. Simple. But physically attacking someone because of what they're wearing is ridiculous. You know, someone with Nike trainers isn't going to beat someone who's wearing Reeboks, are they? Well, they might do if they're that superficial and shallow. But, you know, it's stupid. It makes no sense because it doesn't impact your life at all. And it's something that needs to stop because, I mean, a young woman lost her life because of this prejudice. You know, a group of youths didn't like what her and her boyfriend were wearing, so they jumped them and beat them to death. I mean, the boyfriend got away, thankfully. He survived. He didn't get away, but he survived. But the young lady, Sophie Lancaster, was beaten to death. She was kicked and beaten so severely that it killed her. Just because these people didn't like the clothes she was wearing. You know, at the end of the day, what has it accomplished? It's accomplished nothing, and it's made these young people murderers. For the sake of not liking someone's musical taste, for the sake of not liking what someone's wearing. I mean, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's not worth it, it doesn't accomplish anything. And, you know, it needs to stop. And this needs to have more attention because it happens every single day. You know, I've encountered this sort of hatred and prejudice for most of my life because of the music I listen to. Many of my friends have. I know some of you people watching have probably experienced it as well. You know, and it needs more attention brought to it because when it gets to the point where somebody is killed purely for their taste in music, things have gone too far. You know, I can understand people not liking it. You know, you don't have to like the music I listen to, but you at least respect the fact that I like it, because I respect the fact that people like Wiz Khalifa, Ariana Grande, Miley Cyrus for some god-awful reason, you know, but it's their right, it's their prerogative to like it. I'm not going to sit there and physically attack them because they like different music to me. They're not making me listen to it, I'm not making them listen to mine. So, really, what's the point? But anyway, I've gone off on another mad tangent again, haven't I? If you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment and what their goal is, because they can explain it without going off on random tangents and rants like I do. And you know, if you can help them out in any way, even if it's something as simple as one of these Sophie bracelets, I think they're like £1 on the store. They've got other merchandise in there as well, you know, beanie hats, shirts, stickers, the like. You know, if you can help them out in any way, that's absolutely fantastic. Every little bit makes a big difference. And the sooner we can bring more attention to this, the sooner we can stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.